I've been planning on making this video for a very long time, but today I am finally going to talk about Slipknot's debut album, their self-titled album from 1999. Now, I think I might know like one song on this, but I really know almost nothing about the album. I know it's a very important album. I know that a ton of people really love it. All the Slipknot fans obviously really love this album, and I just love the cover because it shows the band, it shows them with all their masks and everything on it. I think that's really cool, and I'm honestly pretty excited. I think my favorite one will probably be Volume 3, just because I know the most songs from that one, and compared to the other albums, I've heard like it has the most like type of music that I'm into, if that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, that's okay, because it's kind of confusing to explain. But there are a bunch of tracks on here, but they're not too long, except for one of them here as I just looking. The album came out June 29th, 1999. There are 15 songs on here. It is 50 minutes, and those tracks are 742617000027, Sick, Eyeless, Wait and Bleed, Surfacing, Spit It Out, Tattered and Torn, Me Inside, Liberate, Prosthetics, No Life, Deluded, Only One, Scissors, and Eeyore. I think I'm saying that right. And I know I watched a reaction to one of the songs. I think it's Eyeless, if I remember correctly. I know I saw some like little video. I know there's like some wicked scream in that one, although I assume there's probably one in all of these songs. I know that this album is more kind of like that, so I do hope I enjoy it. I think that I like this one more than Iowa, because I've heard a lot of people love Iowa, but I also know it's kind of a more heavy album, more filled with like the just straight up screaming. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm very excited to listen to this. I do hope I really enjoy it. I think I will. I'm pretty sure I will enjoy this one. A lot of the tracks are quite short here though. Like, I think it takes up until the 10th track to make it over 4 minutes. Over 4 minutes. So that's kind of funny, but I'll be back in about 50 minutes. Okay, well, that was definitely something. I'm just gonna move my microphone a little bit closer here. There's a lot of things I loved about this album, but there's also some things I didn't, and I kind of expected that going into it. Okay. I knew there was going to be moments on this album that I didn't enjoy. I knew that going into it. That's just my personal preference. I'm not one who enjoys just straight up screaming. Like, I want good lyrics, good meaning in the lyrics, and when you scream those lyrics well enough to understand them, that's when it's okay for me. There are a bunch of songs on here that have a ton of amazing screaming by Corey Taylor, who of course is phenomenal, probably one of my favorite metal singers, well, definitely one of my favorite metal singers, probably one of my favorite singers in general now, because he has such an amazing range. And I don't just mean like vocal range, like I mean he can sing softly, like what I just listened to last night, Snuff. That song is just so beautiful, and it's basically it is all just like a softer, calmer voice. We see then some choruses, but there are some aggressive, heavy screams, and they really work for the most part. Now, there are definitely some times where and I'm not blaming Corey Taylor, and I just want to make one thing clear. I want to be just completely honest and straightforward with you guys. I am totally aware I cannot do anything on this album. I can definitely not sing like Corey Taylor. I cannot play the drums like Joey Jordan said. Oh my god, is he amazing. I couldn't play the bass. The guitar, I could probably learn some of the riffs, but I could definitely not play it this well, or even write this kind of stuff, and all the other roles and stuff, and like the DJ stuff and all that. I could not do that. I want to make that 100% clear, because a lot of times when people criticize stuff, the main thing that people say right back is, oh, well, can you do it? And that's a fair criticism in many different situations. I just want to make it clear that I'm fully aware I cannot do this. And again, I'm not like hating on a lot of the screams, because they worked a lot, and I'll talk about them individually when I talk about all the songs individually, like I do if you're new to these videos. I feel like for people watching this, you would have watched my Slipknot reactions. I reacted to 4 of the songs: Duality, Before I Forget, Psychosocial, and Snuff. And I went into this one, I'm pretty sure I only knew Eyeless. Like when I was listening to it, I was like, oh yeah, I know this song, but it was a good album. I'm definitely not saying this was a bad album. This was definitely a good album, and there's part of me that does want to listen to it like multiple times. Like when it ended, I was like, okay, I can actually see myself listening to this more and more. And I feel like when I listen to the album like over and over again, there'll be times when I could be like, okay, I can skip this song because I want to get to a song that comes like before it or something. Because there are definitely some songs here that I felt I could skip, and maybe there'll be some unpopular opinions. I really don't know here. So without further ado, let's jump into the track list. So this part here is not really a song. It's kind of like I'm wearing a Motley Crue shirt. It's kind of like the start of like Shout at the Devil or something. It's just like a little opener. It's 35 seconds long, so it isn't really much. There isn't really anything to talk about. It just says something like, oh, this is sick, something like that. And then it goes into the song Sick, and there is a lot I like about this song. I will say towards the end, maybe a little bit too like full, you know, like all these layers on it, and I get that's totally the point, and maybe it did go like a little bit overblown. That's kind of what I mean, and that's how I felt about the end of Psychosocial, a song I think is quite great. Like I think it's a very good song, but there are definitely times towards the end where it feels a little bit bloated, and maybe it's the same with this song, but I feel like live that'd be great. Eyeless is a very good song as well, probably one of the best ones on here. Not one that I'm gonna listen to a million times, and not one like as of the moment I can say is one of my favorite Slipknot songs, but I will say it's definitely on the better half of this album. And then Wait and Bleed is obviously one of the big ones, as it has a star here, and I could definitely see why this is easily like top 3 probably of the album, probably top 10 Slipknot songs, at least for me. I mean, I'm judging it from 4 other ones and then this entire album, but this was a really great song. This one was like the first, I mean, the other ones really impressed me, especially because of Corey Taylor, and I have to just go back to Sick for a second because I knew I had to mention this. The drumming by Joey Jordison is unfucking believable. It is so good on that song. That was the first thing I noticed while listening to this album is, oh my god, this guy is just one of the best drummers ever, and I knew that before, but it was really shown on that track. But talking about Wait and Bleed, I feel like watching this live, it'd be great. I feel like it's one of those songs where the crowd knows every single word. And then Surfacing is another song I heard lots about, and I have to say, it was really great. And even these songs, like Wait and Bleed's only 2 minutes and 27 seconds, Surfacing's 3 minutes and 38 seconds, Spit It Out is 2 minutes, 39 seconds, like, it's just like, they're shorter songs, but they work so well. Surfacing is pretty good as well. I heard it's like some new anthem, as some people call it. I was like, I don't exactly see that, but it was a very good song. Spit It Out was also pretty great. It's definitely on the heavier side of this album, and it really worked for the most part for me. That's kind of how I feel about most of these songs, that they worked for the most part, but then there are some songs like Tattered and Torn. Now, this is where I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not, but this song probably was my least favorite. Like, this is really the only one that I was just like, oh, yeah, no, like there's no part of me that really is craving a song like that. And I always hate this term. I hate when people say it, and I'm just saying that because I'm going to say this now, because there's obviously many different reasons for this, but this song definitely just becomes noise at one part. And what I mean by that is when you have all these instruments together and they're playing great things, like I bet on their own they sound great, and you compile them all together and you have layers of vocals. Vocals are very good here, but it just gets messy, and to me, it just didn't all go together that well. But Me Inside is actually pretty good. Again, pretty heavy as well. I mean, all these songs are pretty heavy. I feel like that's an obvious thing with nu metal, and Slipknot is really the only nu metal band I listen to right now. I want to get into Korn, so if you want me to make some videos on them, I don't know if I should be saying that to Slipknot fans or not. Not 100% sure on that one. And Liberate was pretty good as well. It had some wicked screams by Corey, but in the good way. I mean, anytime I say it's a wicked scream, it's always great. I mean, even with a song like Tattered and Torn, if I say the screams, you know, I'm not saying the screams are bad. I mean, the screams are insane and stuff I could never do, but it's just like the layers and everything. I went over that before. Prosthetics is one of my favorite ones on here, I think, at least. Like, some of these songs, I will say, kind of mesh together a little bit, and yes, I did just finish it, but because there are a bunch of tracks and they are shorter, sometimes in my brain, this is just me being stupid, kind of mix some together. But No Life is another one that I don't know what it is about, like, some of the shorter songs, they really work. No Life really worked for me. Like, I'd say it's probably in my top 5, top 6 of the album. I thought it was really great as well, and it worked. It used repetition in a good way this time. Diluted was pretty good for the most part, up until, again, this common criticism I feel, till the ending where it does get a little bit bloated. And then Only One hasn't really stuck with me that much. I don't really have much to say about it, but I will say Scissors is probably my favorite track on this album. I mean, it's great, and a lot of people are like, oh, you didn't like the other songs with a ton of screaming, but you really like this one. But yeah, I do, because I totally understand it and it totally makes sense in this context. That's what I feel that some people don't understand. For people to just straight up say, I hate all screamo songs, I don't know if that's a bad thing to say, I apologize if it is, but I hate all, death metal and new metal and all stuff like this. I hate metal in general, which is stupid to say. They don't listen to why there is screaming, and with a song like Scissors, it totally makes sense because it feels like it's in the mind of somebody who's psychotic, somebody who's going crazy. And like the opening lines here, I'll just check again. It's something about some doctor, like I play doctor or something. Line is, I play doctor for at least 5 minutes flat before I cut my heart open and let the air out. Like it's pretty heavy. And then by the end, like it just keeps going, and it gets kind of like more intense, binding my time. That part, again, lots of repetition here, but it really works. And then this part is where you can really feel kind of the insanity, because it starts singing, someone is behind me, someone inside of me, everyone against me, everyone beside me. It just keeps going, yet it still worked for me because it felt like it was actually telling the story. And then it just gets pretty crazy at the end. Yeah, the song is quite long. It's 8 minutes and 25 seconds, and you definitely feel the length, but I didn't exactly see that as a fault. I thought that this one was the most interesting because it actually felt like it told a really fascinating story that was like creepy, but it really worked. And then Eeyore is actually, this one and Tattered and Torn are probably my least favorite. This one, I know it's a hidden track, like when the CD came out, and now because of streaming it's just on there for everyone to know. I know it's like a bonus one. It just doesn't feel needed. It feels like a perfect ending with Scissors, and then there's just like this added on thing. It was cool to hear them in the studio just a tiny bit at the end, but there's nothing, again, just like Tattered and Torn, there's nothing really about that song that I feel like, oh yeah, I really need to listen to that. But for this song, there isn't like that thing that hooks me that goes, oh yeah, I really need to listen to the song over and over again. But overall, the original Slipknot album, the self-titled one, their debut, their 1999 release, whatever you want to call it, it was pretty good so far. I'm actually not going to give it a rating in this video yet because I do want to listen to it again, because my thoughts still need to settle. Now, a lot of you are like, oh, why are you filming if your thoughts haven't settled? And that's the point of these videos. The point of these videos is not to be a straight up review. It's for me to share my thoughts on the album, but more specifically each song individually right after I listen to it. That's the whole point of these videos, and I'm interested to know what are your favorite songs on this album. As I said, my favorite is Scissors. I think if I were to go with top 3, it might, just right now, it'd be Scissors, Wait and Bleed, and No Life, maybe? Not 100% sure. There were a bunch of really great tracks on here. Some I didn't love. I mean, there were like 2, Tattered and Torn and Eeyore I didn't really like, but the rest of them were good enough. Like, they were good enough. Definitely an album that I want to listen to over and over again. And again, I feel like it'll get better and better when I listen to it again. And I want to know, should I make a video on Iowa? Because I know it's a very important album when it comes to Slipknot, but I know it's like even heavier than this one. And I'm pretty sure it like features more screaming and stuff like that with like every single song. And I know it's a little bit different, so I'm interested to know if you want me to talk about this one. I will definitely be talking about Volume 3 though. I think I'll actually really love that album, so I'm excited. And my rambling is done. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Over and out.